Fort Bills High School.
And your rural U class is a senior
Is
class?
202, and it'll be a senior class.
I'm Lisa Timberlake, and I teach English at Katahdin High School. I teach Comp 1 and Comp 2 and speech.
Comp 1 and Comp 2 is to what level?
Up to seniors, I have had some juniors though. Most of the seniors.
Jocelyn Sose, Fort Kent, and I teach Comp 1 and Comp 2 to juniors.
Chris Wright, Poland Regional High School, and I teach Comp 1 to seniors.
I'm Harriet Sear, and high school English, and I'll do Comp 1 and 2 to majority of juniors, but there will be some seniors because they haven't had it before.
Okay. I'm Mark Kelly. I am the reading writing specialist. Well, Timothy.Kelly is my email. But my name is Mark. I had taught high school English 32 years. I started out at Wisdom High School, which was one of the poorest schools in the state. Went over to Madawaska, which was 20 miles down the road, which was at the time one of the richest schools in the state because of the mill. Left Madawaska, went to another world called York, Maine, on the beach, and I taught that down there for 13 years. And then I came back up here, back to Madawaska, and now I'm at UMFK as a reading writing specialist. I teach the, they call them the ASP classes, which is the class to get you into Comp 1. I have my classes, they're talking about diversity. My classes are very diverse, and they're talking about retention. If 50% of my class graduates from college, we're doing great. You know, it really, and that's not that far off from what an incoming freshman class. You know, if they hit 50, that's good. A lot of, getting them to graduate from this institution, it's probably less than that. But sometimes they go to other institutions, we don't know where they go, once we lose track of them. So it's a hard stat to follow. But it's something that a lot of kids who are the traditional students coming out of a Maine high school don't realize that their chances are 50-50. And that's something, I also did the Summer Bridge program, which get these kids who are high risk at not staying around. And when I worked with them, the transition they went through in 2.5 weeks is just amazing. Don't want to do your work, you don't do your work. You're losing your money. And it's the same thing. You guys are kind of serving two masters with so it's a tough situation to be in. But if you can get that across to them, that you don't necessarily have a guarantee here. I remember at one of my schools for a while when these all the new learning standards were coming in. To fail a student took an act of Congress. It literally took 3 meetings, meeting with the student and the department chair, and then the student, department chair, principal, student, department chair, parents. And that's the only way you can fail a student. So it was just very difficult. Here, it's not that. And I often get students coming up to me and saying, what can I do to make this up? And the answer is, you take the course again. And they really need to hear that as much as possible.
Use your opportunities better next time.
Yeah, and it sounds kind of mean, but it's just the reality of how it works. Okay. The other thing is I graduated from Fort Kent High School. I went to Orono, and then I started teaching, taught for about 10 years, and then I went to Breadlow. Do you know Breadlow? Middlebury College in Vermont, Breadlow School of English. Middlebury's a really rich institution. My first day of classes, went off to class, and just, I felt overwhelmed. Everybody in this class was smarter than I was. Everybody else was just more prepared. And then, to blow me away even more, I came back to my class and my bed was made. My room was cleaned up. They had scouts come in and do that one. So the speaker was talking about the divide between the races. There's a divide between the public and private schools, and Millbury's private, and things like that happened all the time. I also ran into the divide between the north and south when I went down to York. I coached my whole teaching career, and I coached, I remember I coached soccer up here, and I asked the coach, I said, can we bring them on a trip? And, oh no, insurance won't cover it, nothing. In New York, I took my girls cross country team to Colorado. We ran races all across the country in a rented van, and they didn't bat an eye. You know, so, and every year we'd climb Katahdin and go by water rafting, and that trip just got more and more popular as, you know, we had the chief of police with us last season, about 50 adults and 20 kids. So that divide, you know, and you guys are from different parts, it's real, and the money is, it's just unfair. You know, I see, you know, we have a really good drama director, Doug Clapp, who puts on shows, and he's just scrambling. New York just put in a $6 million theater. You know, so it's just like, it's different, So, and how you overcome those, you know, it's hard. And there's ways of getting support, and it's not just money, because there are parts in the schools with more money. There were parts that didn't work, and it's a tough problem. There's people in town trying to get organized to see how we can, you know, revitalize it. You probably have the same things in your community. How's Poland doing? Like, they had made all these radical changes when I was at York.
Well, we're still making them.
Still making it?
Yep.
And do they still have that dean or is the principal?
No, with our consolidation woes, we've got a principal and a vice principal at this point.
Okay.
We used to have the dean of academics and dean of students, and we no longer operate in that model. It's interesting to listen to.
Were you there when that?
I was one of the positions that got cut in that consolidation. The high school lost 10 teaching positions in 1 year, and lost another almost 10 in the next year. And my position got cut the first year, but I was able to stay because one of my colleagues was going on maternity leave for the year, and so I just held her position, and then that one got cut also. And so I had to go and ended up at Levitt Area High School for a couple of years, and then was able to come back to Poland after that. So it has not been an easy transition, but I think for the efficiency of the district, I think we're getting to a point where, you know, it's kind of sorting itself out at this point. But we still have a lot of those. We have a lot of similar issues. And I don't know what it's like to be up this neck of the woods, but our athletic conference includes York and Falmouth and Yarmouth and Cape Elizabeth and Greeley and, you know, some of the most affluent communities in our state. And we are very much not those. And so, you know, a lot of that affluent disparity is right in our faces all day, every day. And yet, we still have it much better than a lot of other places in the state and in the country, and, you know, we gotta try and make do. Because we do, we have a beautiful school building. They're looking at a capital project to increase the size of the middle school that's attached. Because through the consolidation, they went from 3 different middle schools to one, and, you know, now they've got all the trailers out there and they want to get rid of those, that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed when I went down to York is, I think it's 95% locally funded.
Yeah.
So, you know, when she was referring to the state making these decisions, we didn't really care.
Yeah.
You know, if the state cuts funds, we lose 5%.
Right.
You know, if it's gonna cost us more. So the state had a lot more control over the poor schools.
Right.
And it's just, and I got in arguments with the York faculty about it. Well, they waste their money, and you know, and it's just, no, that's not. You know, and I think, like the education department at UMFK sends their students down to Portland High School for a couple days, you know, and just eye-opening experience for these kids.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And on this campus, you know, we're kind of closed off from the community. We try to get out there more, but we've got 37 different countries here.
Yeah.
The language is spoken here. It's just, we don't have a formal ESL program, but I run the writing lab here, so I looked at probably 200 papers in every subject area, and I think about 35 to 45% of those papers were written by an ESL student. So that's an issue, and that's going to be an issue throughout the state. And I don't know if any of you have your ESL training. It's about 15 credits or something, but it's not. You know, it's not just grammar, going over the grammar and stuff. You really need to understand the cultures. It's interesting. It's a little different than teaching in all white Madawaska, you know.
Yeah.
No. All right, I've got a really brief PowerPoint, and it's not going to get any bigger than that on the line. I don't understand the polycom system, but we'll go through that, and then I realize you guys must be terribly busy right now, and I don't want to waste your time. So what I talked to Scott about was putting together, reinforcing your syllabus. You know, and are you okay with that? Some of you, I don't know if you just finished, I don't know what stage you're at, but there's a syllabus template on the UMFK website, and I'll show you how to access that. I'm trying to think, and I've got all the paperwork of what should go in our, you know, you have your Common Core, and that has to match up. And I'll show you what ours is, our SLO, Student Learning Outcomes, and how, and we have a sample syllabus too, and we can go over that. And just, like I said, I don't want to waste your time. I want you to get something productive out of this. The other thing is, your students in your rural U class and your early college and Pleasant Street Academy can use the writing lab, the writing lab that I run. There's a form, and remind me after the PowerPoint to show you the form of how your students can access that. It's good to let them know that it's a high school student. Some of the papers will come directly to me. Some will come to a student. I have, this year I had 5 or 6 students working for me. Next year I think I'll have 4. And they're usually within 24 hours, depending on if it's finals week or not. They'll get a response from the paper, and it's not. We're not an editing service. We're a tutoring service, and we've got it right up in the lab. We are not ghostwriters. We're not editors. We're tutors, and but remind me to show you that after. Okay, so here's rural U. Reading. And it shows this is XKCD, if you've ever been to that website. It's, God puts out one of these a day. It's usually around computer and technologies. But the way you guys are serving two different purposes, I don't know how important, I haven't reviewed the Common Core standards. I don't know how much you guys are grammar wizards, you work on that. I have a nurse, 52% of the students at this school are nursing students. The nursing faculty is very, very strict about APA format. And I've become an expert on it. Whether that's useful to you or not, it probably will be useful to your students if they come here. The science, behavioral sciences pick up on it too. So it is a MLA we hardly use, which, that's the one that most high schools, that I worked, ML, and there's not a big difference, but I do have a handout about APA too. That's pretty fun to work with. Okay, what does rural U want from you? What do the students need and what do they want? Two different things, definitely. What do university instructors want? I just talked about that a little bit. And what do you need from rural U? And today, whether you need it or not, you're going to get some time to work on your syllabus. Okay. And your syllabus, has it been approved by Scott? Yeah.
I follow the instructor's syllabus.
What?
I just follow the instructor's syllabus.
Okay. So who's the instructor?
Geraldine Becker.
Okay, so you have Geraldine's syllabus. Yeah, and that's, you'll have a chance to modify it. That way you can get those Common Core things in there. And that's Geraldine's is the one I have.
Oh.
Right, which, it's a little overwhelming for a student to get a 16-page syllabus, and they get them. But try putting in a little thing. If you're still reading, contact me. And see if you get a response. It doesn't always happen with, and students are really time deprived. They, especially the traditional freshman coming in, doesn't know how everything works. Maybe didn't have the best study habits in high school because they were a pretty good student already and could get away with it, and or just they're here and nobody's telling them what to do. So that's the other thing. Coming to college, I've been here for 3 years now. I've never had a call from a parent.
Yeah.
It's a nice world. Okay. What does rural U want from you? A syllabus that meets UMFK's general education requirements and student learning outcomes specific to the courses. And I have copies of those for you. The same thing. But I don't know if you knew they existed. We just went through accreditation and we had to do this same thing. The students in your course need a C or higher, or else they have to repeat the course. And at the end of their senior year, they put together a general education portfolio. And if you can get them to produce something like that in your class, and they can save that, that's one less thing to add to the portfolio later. The C or higher, most of the professors here do an A is 90 to 100 to be, so a C minus would be 71, 72. That doesn't cut it in English. Like the other rural U courses, it's D is, and D minus is okay, but English is different. And that's something that you probably want to set up your grading system to make sure they're aware of that. And sometimes, if the student gets below C minus and has a low Accuplacer score, they end up in my class, which I'm not that terrible, but it's set, if they're in a major that's really regimented, where they don't have a lot of electives, it can set them behind because these courses only offer first semester, you know, so it gets a little complicated. All right. What the students want, unfortunately, the majority want the 3 credits, the easiest way they can find, okay? And I just had a senior come to me. He's graduated from nursing program. He's a successful student. He's seen me all the way through. He speaks 5 languages, okay? And he needs help with his English papers. You know, his paper's written in English. And at the end, you know, he's graduating, he did well, and he says, what am I going to do now when I have to write a paper? You know, so I said, you can do this, you know, you can do it. Yeah. And so I try not to have them dependent. You know, if they come to the writing lab once and start to get the hang of it and they don't need us anymore, that's fine with us. But some of your students are going to need help. And I'm sure you've had college students say, can you look at this for me? You know, they send it back to you because that used to happen to me. And if you, and now the evil thing on the horizon is Grammarly and the grammar checkers and stuff, which, you know, it helps. But again, and there's a dependency there. The instructors at campus, and this is not just the English, this is everybody, clear writing and APA mastery, and the plagiarism is an issue. And you, as instructors here, should have access to turn it in.
We don't.
Okay, talk to Scott about it. Because is everybody familiar with Turnitin?
No.
Okay, Turnitin is a plagiarism checker, and it will also mark up the paper, you know, to a grammar correction. And if it will tell you what percentage of paper is plagiarized, and it will give you the sources. And it's really hard for a student to worm their way out of that and have that evidence in front of them. There's no reason not to use it. It really does cut down. There's some professors here who don't use it, but everyone who adopts it really likes it. So you should. I'm pretty sure Scott will get you access to that because I have access to it in the course. The other thing is, it seems like a waste of instructional time. Like having your students write in class, you can see that it's coming from them. Mm-hmm. It's not their friend doing it, their girlfriend, boyfriend kind of thing. That happens frequently in college. So it's okay to do that. It's good to do it early in the semester, so you get a kind of a ground of where the writing ability is. They turn into Shakespeare halfway through the semester, you know, something's going on. Okay. And I should be making notes on this too, to show you that. I'll show you Turnitin.
These, what you're providing us here right now,
Yeah.
what the instructors want, what instructors are you talking about?
All of them.
These instructors,
Yeah,
not
instructors are
these
human.
instructors.
No,
but-
not,
Yeah, okay.
no.
The university level.
Yeah, university, you know, a student coming out of your class, they expect them to be.
This is what they want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we, at this university, we have 52% nurses, a good percentage behavioral science majors, and then the forestry 2-year program, we have a lot of kids in there. And English majors, we have, it's single digits per year. Okay. I'm not sure the exact numbers, and the education has, this was Fort Kent Teachers College at one time, and it isn't anymore. The education majors have gone down, which is, a reflection of what's going on in the state.
So as far as the APA goes, I mean, we work as a district with our middle school to start with MLA to teach it
Yeah.
from 6th grade up. So for the assignments that my students do, will we need to switch to APA, or can we still use the MLA?
You can use
Okay.
MLA,
Okay.
and some of the, one of the English instructors uses MLA, and the others accept either.
Okay.
Okay, it's the behavioral science and the nursing major, and and criminal justice takes their own. They have their own format. I like Chicago with the footnotes at the bottom of the page, but that's my preference, Okay, this is stuff that I can provide you today. The syllabus template is, and I can print one out if you're more comfortable just scribbling on it, or you can use the template on the website. Copy of the learning note comes right there. And APA and Purdue OWL. Do you guys use Purdue?
Yes.
That's a good source. I use it here. If you type in writing for nurses, there's a section of and the same thing with the law enforcement. So it's pretty good. Turn it in, I'll give you a little demonstration of that. IT is, they're actually right over there. This is right in this building you walk. And IT is really helpful here. They set this up for me today. And they and they can help you online too. So I'm every student at UMFK, so I'm assuming this applies to the Royal U too, can get Microsoft Word for free. So when they send a paper to me, it's usually Microsoft Word. If it's in Google Docs, we get this, the students forget to shut it off, and we see them putting their corrections in for months. So we keep on getting these emails. So if we can handle the Google Docs, but if it's Word, it works much better. And I don't know if your schools have access to that or not. Every kid here can get it if they want it, if they don't already have it.
Our issue would be, we have MacBooks.
Yep,
And we have
that will work.
Pages, well, it would work, but I don't know if Milty would let us put it on.
Oh, put it on. What do you have for word processing for?
Pages or Google Docs.
Then you'd have to go with
The
Google.
teachers, do the kids have LibreOffice?
No, they only have pages.
And they usually use Google Docs.
For turn it in, does it have to be a PDF that you,
They accept different forms.
they accept it? Okay.
Are all your high school units from Milty?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, so, okay. Our district bought ours, so.
It's interesting how it.
Oh, it's a big world out there.
Yeah. My dad was the superintendent in this district for close to 40 years, and my mom was a first grade teacher. So I've got some education background. That in the early 60s, this area became an SAD, and Dad was in charge of that, putting all these schools. So it's a different form of consolidation. Now it's all falling apart. The SAD is being dissolved, and they are, well, looks like it, and they're going to try some other form. But these changes, what the speaker was alluding to in the getting the politics, the economics. Right now, the way it is, the politics, the economics, and the schools are fighting with each other, so there's no cooperation. It's not a good situation. Okay, anything else besides this that I can get you that You're-
I've been teaching this course for 2 years, I think. I have a mix of AP kids, college kids, and of course,
Yeah.
they're
No,
in
on
high
the same
school.
group?
They're all in the same group, because we lost a teacher. So now, I used to only teach AP, another teacher taught the college class. And she was the lowest on the totem pole, so she was cut.
Right.
And so now they amalgamated the two classes together, which was,
So your
Which is
syllabus-
difficult.
Your syllabus must be.
My syllabus
Because
is,
it has to be approved by AP.
AP, UMFK, and has Common Core, so it's kind of, it's a mess.
Yeah,
But, what I think I would need is more, like, I didn't know that I had access to certain things.
yeah.
And I think, I don't know if you guys did or not, but it would be good to have, and I'm glad we have this conference, if we had this more often, like, maybe not all the time, whatever, once a month or anything like that, but even once or twice a year, or even like a shout out through newsletters or emails, like, don't forget, because we're kind of out of the loop with, like, we're teaching these kids college class material, but we're not
Yeah.
college professors. And so we just get, here, you're gonna teach this class, awesome, okay, what am I teaching? And it was sort of, you know, it's thrown at you in the summer and you wanna do it, whatever, but there's not a lot of support, whether it comes from, and I don't think it's because they don't wanna support us, they just don't know how to, or that they need to, you know? And our schools, I don't know about you guys, but our schools don't really know
They're
too
just
much.
excited we're teaching.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, they're getting credits, awesome.
Yay!
And I know that we get kids, like they do that drawing to get kids, well, for Pleasant Street anyway. They do a drawing and there are kids that are put in this English Comp 1 class that have no business being in an English Comp 1 class.
Mhm.
They should be in a junior English class because they need junior English and then senior English and then English Comp 1. Instead, they jump from sophomore English to English Comp 1 and you're like,
I'm not ready.
you are not ready for this, and they're sinking, and they wonder why they're sinking, and you're like, you're in a college class here, you know, you've got to be doing college level work, not I'm a big kid work, you know, this is college level work. So I wonder about the process of getting these kids in, and I know they have to take some sort of AccuPlacer, or there's something, I don't even remember what the test is. But
No,
some-
ours just simply if it matches their schedule.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not us. I know us,
They
we
wanna
have to
take
do
it,
some
they
sort
can
of
take it.
I think it might be the AccuPlacer, but don't quote me on this, don't record this. But I don't know if the level, like the AccuPlacer cutoff is the same as it would be if you came to UMFK. Like if you came on campus and you went to English 1, is the cutoff the same as getting into Pleasant Street?
I could find out. If
Yeah.
Tammy's not a.
So I don't know,
So you at
And
least have a bar, like
Right.
we have nothing, like
You
seriously,
wanna
like
take it,
we
you can
have,
take it.
right, if the guidance counselor, you
Right.
know, and if mom calls and you're in and.
well, there's
Challenge
supposed,
by
in theory,
choice.
there's a cutoff, but I don't know if it really
Right.
is followed the way it should be followed.
Yeah,
It's like, we need to get the numbers 25, so you're in, you know, like,
Does
and
the
I don't know.
university
so you
have
have
a standard?
25,
I have, at the beginning of the year, I had 28 kids in my class taking AP in early college. And 3 of them dropped out because they realized I'm not cut out for this, so now I have 25 or 24, something like that.
the AP is a much more rigorous program.
Exactly.
And to put them together, you almost have to cut your classes.
And I teach mostly AP, like this, I know I shouldn't probably say that, but I'm like, if you can get college credit for this, if this is, you know, a college class, don't complain that I'm teaching you AP stuff, because this is high school AP, not you know what I mean? So you should be able to do this AP work
Yeah.
if you want this college credit. And I follow, you know, my syllabus was approved and all that, so I follow that, and they're all ready to take the AP exam at the end. Well, they should be all ready.
Yeah.
They don't all take it, but I had only 1 or 2 kids, maybe more than that, maybe 4 or 5 kids enrolled in the AP at the beginning of the year, but like 8 or 10 took the exam. So they're ready, they felt ready to take it, but out of 25, 20 of them probably could have taken it, but they decided not to. But whatever, that's their own choice. But yeah, it's much more rigorous than
Right,
the English Comp 1 and 2
right.
even put
Yeah,
together.
I taught AP for a long time, And my AP classes were tougher than the comp one that the professors put.
Absolutely.
And the quality of students were better than the freshman year.
Well,
Yeah,
I
so-
wouldn't say that right now, but they used, for me, when I had just my AP class, yes, the quality of students was above the early
Yeah.
college, but now they're combined. So these kids that shouldn't be even in a college level course are in a college level course combined with AP.
Right.
So it's, yeah, it's interesting.
No, that's tough.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, when next year, so this year, I have juniors, so they're half in proficiency, it's half in traditional, and they're also in college. So I have to grade them on proficiency, grade them if a number score to transfer that to an ABCD for UMFK. So, which, whatever, I got it down
Yeah.
packed, it's fine, did it. But next year, they're gonna be all in proficiency, so I have to grade them on a scale of 1 to 4. And then I have to transfer that to an ABCD for UMFK, or Pleasant Street Academy. So I wonder what UMFK, like, do they have a plan for that, or do I just make that up?
that-
Like,
That I don't know, because it's not just for candidates, everybody.
yeah, and I mean, that's,
It's proficiency based, and
yeah, and that's
And
3 of our
Humphrey is
teachers in
now-
our school will be in that position, so
UMPE's grades are now proficiency.
they are, yeah.
And I don't know how they're getting
Yeah.
those to.
And that's starting in August,
And
you know, like that's
To
not
me, what
years
the
to come.
bad thing about that is, their admissions are gonna start looking at the test scores more. Because that's the
Yeah.
only thing that
Absolutely.
you know, that's the only, and, you know, for a while, we were moving away from that. And
Right.
You know, I don't know what the schools like, you know, Bowdoin doesn't look at SAT scores, I don't know how they
Mm.
could judge a main student coming out, you know, with just the threes.
Bowdoin, in my experience, doesn't take a whole lot of Maine students, so,
Well, they,
some, but not.
when I got into Middlebury, I always thought it was because they, when you walk into the school, there's a map of the world, and they had a nice little pin for me.
They need it again.
That's why they use, so, that's an issue, and I'm sure you all have
Mhm.
things like
Well,
that.
for us-
Something very similar. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for us, because I used her curriculum for Comp 1 and 2, and they still have to take English 11 and English 12.
See, we go.
And so that's where they're getting their standards. I don't worry about it so much with the college course. We transfer it, like if they have a 97, there's a little cheat sheet chart
Yeah.
that I turn that into a 3.8 for their standard-based report card. But I don't really worry about that they're getting the standards or not there, because I know they're getting it in their English class anyway.
So they double up on English junior year?
Yeah.
We
and so
tried,
you're-
we did the bridge year, should we further now? Which was strict, very dual enrollment. But because it was an English comp class, there's no literature implied. And the bridge people didn't give a, they didn't care. And we did it out of Augusta. And it just really became hugely apparent that the blending, this is a comp class. I had to go and pull all of their junior, senior literature out that they should have covered. So this year, I was told on my side, we're in the same district but different buildings, that the dual enrollment, they still have to take their junior and senior Englishes with
It is so different.
It's
When
because
they were
comp's
trying
not
to
the only
sub it-
content within their junior and senior content.
Because at first they were trying to do Comp 1 instead of whatever their English was, but it's apples and oranges. It's not, and I was like, you can't do that, they're missing too much.
Do you guys have AP classes?
No.
Because
Oh,
AP is very similar, like, I wouldn't say very similar, but similar to, we don't teach
We have-
literature.
we have
like
two
in
coming
More
English
just
language.
writing based. or-
It's all
Yeah.
rhetoric
Yeah.
and argument. So they miss that anyway. Do you know what
Oh,
I
I
mean?
see.
Like at the end of the year, after their exam, I always go into some literature or something, but I typically don't do literature for junior AP classes all year long, unless they're reading independently, like
That's what
they
I've
have
done
to
for
do.
this class this year.
Yeah.
Was waited until we got all of the other stuff done, and then we went into a lit.
Yeah.
So you're not using the textbook?
I'm not using the textbook, no. I do not use the textbook.
Do any of you?
For Comp 1.
Okay, I'm
I
kind of
use my
out,
own textbook.
I'm definitely an outlier here, because first, this is my first year doing this, I haven't done it, so I'll start in the fall. I do have college teaching experience, though I have far more of that than high school, so anyway. We are such a small school, we have English 9, English 10, English 11, English 12, that's it.
Are you,
And I'm doing 202 because that fits with our senior curriculum. We can't fit the comp class in because they don't get the literature at all.
It's 202 British Lit.
It's British Lit, and that's my background, and that's what the kids do that year anyway, so that's gonna be good. But I'm gonna have X number of students taking it for dual enrollment, and X number of students just taking it for
Right.
regular college credit,
Mhm.
because they're not ready for college credit. And so, it's good, I'm excited, but I'm also, full of questions about how this is gonna work. Because I know I have kids who are ready for it, I know I have kids who are absolutely not, and making everyone one big happy family, it's gonna be interesting,
I have the ASP classes, it's academic services. I can't remember what the states were, but some of these kids really pull it together. And it's first of all, it's eye-opening class for them because half the class is international students and half the class is Maine rural students. That's usually how it splits up. And these Maine rural kids, they come in here with, they have the low Accuplacer scores. Some of them blew off the Accuplacer because they've been tested so much they didn't realize that this test really matters.
Yeah.
And that's constantly an issue. We had one kid who was in my class, and I said, well, he seems like I just got his first writing sample, and I said, can we retest him? We retested him, went through the roof. He said, I didn't know it counted. And
Had us constantly,
Yeah.
constantly the senior
There's-
year.
We have to beg
there's
them to
test
take it
fatigue,
seriously.
they've been tested so much. When I was down in New York, we taught AP language and comp to sophomores.
That would be good.
The MEA scores went through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
They're so.
That's what they're tested on for SATs and MEAs.
Yeah, so.
All the rhetoric.
And
Yeah.
and the other thing that you guys are dealing with that I don't deal with is the motivation. Some of these kids, if they knew they had to do it, you might get going, but you're not gonna solve that problem. But on that Accuplacer, do they proctor in your own guidance counselor's office?
We go to UMM for
Yeah, ours are done over to our vocational school,
Okay.
conduct those and whatnot.
just
But they
do
can
it.
take them over and over again.
Yeah, because, and we retest people here too, if
Mhm.
there's, that they can, if they're non-traditional student, it's been a while. But that test fatigue, and then the idea of getting motivated for their first year. I've seen some students come in here who are pretty weak, and they've pulled it together. And I've seen some, I just walked in the building, Sparky, he's from Serbia. He learned his English from watching CNN.
Ooh.
And he's on the soccer team, so it takes more time away from the state. And I've worked with him on his papers. Amazing how much he's progressed. And I've seen that with the international kids, and I've seen my kids, coming from Fort Kent High School. Just, they decide, okay, this is, and I don't know
Motivation's
what
a nice
the
thing.
injection is that you give
Right,
them.
yeah.
But some of those bridge students that I had, when they came in, these girls were into all the high school mean girl stuff, and at the end they weren't. And it was 3 weeks, and you could see at the end of those 3 weeks, that one's gonna make it, that one's hasn't let go of high school yet. You know, and it really, it's tough to see that transition. And you said you're not getting much guidance. You know, you like more contact. They gave me, like, when I came here, I was leaving the institution of public schools, and they said, okay, go ahead, teach this class. Didn't give me a syllabus. My syllabus, everything in it is chosen by me, and it's just this autonomy that, as a public school teacher, I wasn't used to. I was used to not only having everybody watch me, but having to watch myself. That would bug me more, that I had to be my own accountant. You know, this is where they got this, and you know, and you have much more leeway with the college classes, and you can see that.
I think it's great to have leeway. I think it's wonderful, and we have leeway at the high school year, even. But it's nice to know the expectations.
Right.
You know,
and
like
the fact that everybody here seems to be doing something different.
I started asking last summer when I found out that I was going to be teaching this class, you know, directing emails to Scott, who tried to filter them out to whatever faculty, you know, might have been helpful, you know, for some exemplars. Like what would I look at and see? Okay, I should look at this as an A paper. This is a B paper.
Right.
This is a C paper. And I sent several emails to, I got contact information that you weren't a part of, from some other faculty members, and emailed and couldn't even get a response from them. Even if it's, you know, we can network.
right.
That, I mean, that would solve so many different, you know, insecurities for me.
If you, I've got all your email addresses, and you'll have mine, and I don't mind coordinating that, and you know, if we can do that, and if Scott thinks it's okay to get together, you know, we can do the Polycom thing, and that's another thing that we should have access to, go to meetings or something like that. If that would work, yeah, because it's just going to make the program stronger. I'm learning a lot about this right now, yeah. I know what the university professors as a whole are expecting for writing, because I look at all these, I'm an expert. I could pass a few nursing exams. And you know, and I had one student that we have this new criminal justice program, conservation law, and he was going through this whole course trying to solve a murder, and every week he had case study progress. Came to the last week, he didn't come see me, so
I don't know how it ended. Oh, you missed the last episode.
Didn't take it. I know how it ended, because my student in my classroom did it. She was a distance learner for that criminal thing. It's every week we talked about the mystery. That was in her writing assignment. I can tell you how. I can tell you, because you already.
I called the
Did you? I know that. I knew you. Yep, we sat there, and so she did it, and because she finished up, so didn't deal with, you know, because our extended school year, I was like, you know, you have to come and give me, yeah. So she came, I know what happened. It was awesome. It was a great format for the class, but yes, I do.
And that's the nice thing. I get all these different papers in my job, you name it, and I get the students applying to grad school looking at their papers too, so it keeps my job fresh. But if your students don't know where they're going yet, or what they want to do yet, or have some dream of being an astronuclear physicist, and that's not realistic, at some point the bubble is going to pop. But to get them prepared for college as much as possible, it's this, you know, clear, effective writing. And so that's simple enough. The APA and the plagiarism issues. Plagiarism, you know, we honestly have students, some international students. I remember I looked at the paper and I said, this is plagiarized, you have to cite this. And I said, no, paraphrase it, you know, don't use the words in quotation marks. And you know, they don't know what quotation mark, they use a different term, you know, period is a full stop for a lot of the students, so you have to speak their language too. And the students said, well, it would be dishonoring the writer if I changed his words.
Cultural.
You know, it's a different,
Run
you know,
with that.
different perspective. But so you have to kind of, and then the old problem with research papers is, I don't know if you're mandated to assign research papers, but everything's taken from someplace else. So the whole paper's going to be footnoted, and that's not.
Right.
And you know, I think the research paper is, you know, because I can put one together probably in the next 10 minutes. The purpose is no longer, you know, it's not
To be a
served
new
to do.
idea.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
That's what I tell my kids. It
Yeah.
needs to be something new. I don't want to be able to just go find that in 10 minutes and
I need to know
Do it
what you think
myself.
about it,
Yeah,
and what you're
exactly.
doing with it,
Right.
and that is
Yeah,
very
that's-
hard,
Yeah.
that's very hard to help.
Research paper.
Right, well, that, and so
Yes.
that's our, right, that's our, pulling for the rest of everyone else, does an iSearch paper that leads into their senior presentation that they can't graduate unless they pass that. And so I've kind of done something a little bit different with my class where I've assigned a research paper and taken them through, I've used another source called the Curious Researcher. You know,
Who teaches? Who wrote that?
I can't remember right off the top of my head. But it's like this, it's like a 6-week outline of, you know, start with questions and do some preliminary research and scale the research from, you know, your Google search to your Google Scholar search to your database searches and you know, and get more specific, more credible sources in there. But then, you know, how to think about it, how to write about it. And it's very difficult when a kid reads something in a source and thinks about it that isn't their thought now. That they didn't come to that except through that source. And so when they write about that, you know, drawing that distinction between what they're actually paraphrasing and summarizing versus what they're generating on their own is very difficult for them to grasp.
One of the terms that, again, the liaison between at Augusta, University of Maine, Augusta, that did the bridge year thing, and it came down to, it's not always like their writing ability as sophomores and juniors, it's their critical thinking ability. And that's truly where the disconnect becomes between the comp class and the phrase is developmentally appropriate, which we kind of borrowed from the elementary, because we'll talk about this 4 or 5-year-old that they're just not developmentally, but are our kids developmentally ready for the rigors of thinking at the college level? They don't have the background, they don't have, you know, they just don't have it. They're young, they don't have the experiences, they don't have the literature, and to be able to create the newness that, you know, that a college level or an AP
Absolutely.
level is requiring them to do.
we even had the, sorry. go ahead.
With the freshmen that I'm dealing with, and college students, there's a patience factor. If a problem isn't solved like that,
Oh, Lord.
just
Instantaneous
It's just the, it's the
gratification.
culture,
Great,
but it's
and in college,
because everything
like
is
I-
instantaneous for them,
Yeah,
so.
and their time deprived already. Yeah, and they shouldn't be time deprived because they don't have to go to lunch. They
Oh,
don't have
let's
to
talk
study all
about
over.
this, let's talk about time deprived, yeah.
You know, it's getting it organized, and that they also, you know, we offer sessions on time management and stuff like, but the idea of sitting down and going over a schedule and having it all mapped out, but that takes time and a little, you know, patience to go through.
I made my kids do that this fall.
Yeah,
You know, from when do you get up in the morning, when do you go to bed at night, it's every half hour, right? And I wanna, you know, you gotta put down on a weekly basis what are you doing?
yeah, I used to do that
Good.
with, say, okay, how long are you gonna study for this final?
Right.
I'm gonna study 6 hours. Okay, put those 6 hours in on your schedule.
Where are you gonna
Or
do that?
Saturday night, you're gonna study for 3? No.
Right. You know that's not the decision you're gonna make.
Yeah, Ryan, yeah.
That's one of the challenges with rural U or Pleasant Street for us is these kids see us a lot more than they'll see a college professor. So we have time, like you said, to do an in-class, you know what, you're gonna write this in class right now. But I say to my kids, you're not gonna do this in real college, like, so for them, you try to tell them, this is a college class, but it's not, like, they're in a high school setting. So it doesn't feel like college to them. We are high school teachers, so they're not threatened by us, you know, the way that
And we don't have
they
the
would if
same.
they went to your class, or, you know, the Beckers or something, and be like, oh God, I'm in a
Do
college
you guys do
professor's
any,
classroom.
do your kids do online college classes or are they all?
They do some, yeah.
And we don't have the same authority in our class to say, oh, you showed up, 4 minutes late, you're out.
No, there
You know,
are
or
these
you're on your cell
rules that
phone,
are,
you're
yeah.
out.
Or
You
you
know,
didn't
you're-
pass in that assignment,
It's
here's
all
a
over.
zero.
Right,
And, cause you're gonna get,
right.
you're gonna hear from it from other people if you
Right,
give them
yeah.
a zero. And I had
Have
to
to
threaten my
accept
kids at the
correctly.
beginning of the year, this is your one warning, this is what was your one chance to not pass in an assignment. Next time, it's a zero, you're in college, like, this isn't high school right now, you
Right.
have to pretend this classroom, second period is college campus. Because I said, this isn't gonna fly in college, like, you're not gonna get away with this.
Yeah.
And
Send them to Dr. Murphy for a class. Dr. Murphy will drop a kid from the class, if cell phone, late. She says on time is late.
Right.
And the kids.
That's I think
they're-
it's,
But I
that
think we're
syllabus is
setting
the
them
one I
up for
was
failure,
using.
yeah.
Yeah, and they're scared to death of her, but boys, those kids hold on to that stuff.
Yep.
You know, I work with those kids later, and I see it, and they're comfortable because they know the rules, but they gotta make it through that first week. You know, that's the tough part.
But there's
And
this
now,
weird,
with your seniors and juniors, are you the only class? Do they, like, if they don't?
Oh, I'm in it. I'm the English
So they
teacher.
can't
You're
go
the
and say,
show.
okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
take the.
we're one English teacher, one science, one
And
math.
but is in one English class?
Yes.
Anybody else in that? So
well,
if
we
you-
have like English 11, or English 3, I guess we call it.
Yeah,
And, sorry, I teach mostly seniors, but I do teach the junior college class, but I'm the only senior English teacher. But I teach multiple sections of that class, does that make sense? Yeah.
but if they do something in your class, you can't say, okay, you probably belong in the other
Oh,
class.
there's
Yeah,
nowhere to
There
go.
is no
No.
one.
Oh, no, we're the show.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are the show. There is
Yeah.
nowhere else to go.
Yep.
We don't have personality conflicts. There's not options. Like, there's nowhere to
You
go.
gotta
Yeah.
find a way to make it work.
Yep.
Oh, geez, why don't you take a break, there's bathroom over our template. And there's an electronic one of those. You have access to the portal, can you log in to UMFK?
I've not tried. I did not.
Yeah.
I can get through Blackboard because of the speech class, because he got me in so I could actually see his site.
I have, because I have through the writing lab, all kinds of those student papers.
That would be awesome. if I could.
I'd have to get student permission.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll have to ask them, but they come to me, or my students, and we log everything we get on.
Because that would be a tremendous teaching tool to be able to hand that out to kids in class and have them break it down.
Yeah, deconstruct the whole
Right,
thing, tell us
yeah.
why is this
What
more
is
than
this doing well? What could it do better? What might have, yeah, all of that.
And somebody, like an argumentative synthesis, to me, that was I was just not that familiar with that style paper, and so I wanted to make sure I was teaching it right.
Yeah.
But she said I couldn't get,
And what
Yeah.
one person at one place calls this, you
Well,
might be
right,
doing,
that-
it's just.
But I thought, how many
Right.
times our
Just
kids
the-
go to college and
Because then
they
I'll
send me,
research it.
Miss here, I don't have a clue what this is, and they send it, it's like, well, darling, this is truly what it is. I mean,
Well,
this is
yeah.
what
We
we
look
call.
online and then
Oh, yeah.
you're, but these aren't all the same. So
Yeah.
so I just wanted to be on the same page with Since I'm,
Because if one of our goals is to prepare them for the next step, I wanna know what that step is clearer. Tell me what you
Yeah.
saw in that
Did you
paper, and what are
create
you
your
looking
own
for?
syllabus, or
And
you're
then I
following the
can move
syllabus?
the kids to that direction.
I created mine from the example, trying to combine the graduation expectations and requirements for my school with the expectations of the Comp 101 class.
I guess for me, I didn't have to do that because they take English 11. Yeah, this wasn't.
Right, so
blue.
yours is an elective?
Right,
Yes,
exactly.
mine's not, and if it were, I'd be in a much different place to be able to say, oh, you didn't turn this in on time, here's your grade then.
Right,
Don't bother.
right.
And truly, this
Yeah.
way, I think, like, again, that bridge year, the technology, you know, the vocational CTE state, dual enrollment to the universities, to the high school, for me, that personally was what it didn't work. Somebody had to be the master, and it was eventually, the university, which is fine, except then it leaves me kind of like empty-handed for their high school requirements.
Right.
So I love that it's a dual enrollment opportunity, you can still be, you know, and I let my kids double dip. You know, a lot of the papers they're doing for the university, they will do for me anyways as 12th graders. That's, you know, that,
They have to take another,
mine do too,
They
mine
do
do
now,
too.
but in
that's
Bridge
just-
year, but like
But-
you
but
said, in
you-
Bridge year, then Comp 1 did take over, there was no English 11.
yeah,
For-
to me, it's not being more efficient if they're.
It is and it isn't. It's they.
Or maybe
too-
there's too much packed into.
There's too much. We are trying to do two, well, think about it, if you're doing 1 and 2 comp, and what content's gonna be followed by the wayside, something had to give.
When you do 1 and 2,
Mhm.
are you doing that over 2 years or 1 year?
One year for Bridges, when I taught it outside of Bridges, for rural U, it
So
was
the
a
first
semester.
semester is.
Comp 1 and second semester is Comp 2. But now we're also finding that there's universities outside of this one that don't require Comp 2 or there's something different as the second English. And so a lot of kids drop Comp 2 when they find out where they're going doesn't need it, they don't require it. So next year, we're thinking of just doing Comp 1 throughout the whole year because it's such a difficult class that would allow me to do a lot of supplemental material.
Yeah, that would, yeah. I have the Comp 2,
Comp 2 is I mean, between the two that I teach, Comp 2 is I like Comp 2 much better. It's, the kids have a better time with it, the discussions are more, the reading and discussions are more interesting to them than what's in Comp 1, very dry.
As you say, her tone just very dry.
yeah, and that's why, we could do that for well, no, you're not all using the same text, but finding those other, because when some kid from South Africa comes into my office and says,
What's
Plato,
this?
Seriously?
I start telling them, okay, what are you familiar with? Well, it's sort of like this. See how this is see what they're saying. So if you're going to argue this, and I really say, when you use the word argue, think of it the way you always think of it. It's really an argument. You're going back and forth. Rather than, like, I don't like putting the Rogeri and Thuman tags on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then they get, oh, what's that?
Yeah, that throws them for a loop.
And all that is just give them a little concession in there. You put it in there, and when I was a senior in high school, the 5-paragraph essay was there was nothing else.
No.
It rocked. It was the bedrock of all writing.
Little geometric
Fine.
shapes.
Oh yeah, find it out.
Yeah, and some of the kids, the international kids, still come with that. And so I teach them, well, you can stray from that form. And does it have to be 5 paragraphs? Well, no. how, depends on the argument, depends, so they get a little more freedom with it to play. And so for them, the scary thing about finding, going online and finding a Rogerian essay and using it as a sample in class, you'll get 50 copies of it come back to you.
Right.
So if you get a few of them.
I wanted them really more so for my benefit, so
Yeah.
that I feel confident in what I'm teaching to them, that
Yeah.
I'm on the right track
Yeah,
with it.
you can, if you have something else you're doing in your course, you can go Rogerian essay on and search it, and you'll come up with a bunch of them and have the kids do that, or have the
Well,
kids
it's
do
more
the
so
search.
like an example of an argumentative synthesis paper, an example of a summary critique.
Yeah.
That
Right, and
it's more the style of paper. As the argumentative style is, I mean, to me, that the book explains that really well, and it's easier to follow.
the synthesis paper, which you use Dr. Murphy's, you used her syllabus?
I'm
This one?
looking for, no, this is actually the one I used right here, and it is, actually, it's Geraldine's. It's this one.
Okay. And Dr. Murphy, I didn't photocopy it just because it doesn't photocopy that one, but it's a very different setup. Her SLOs, her student learning outcomes, become course objectives,
Right.
and they don't follow the NEASC stuff as religiously. But she's covering it all, and what she's covering in the syllabus, she puts her synthesis paper at the end, has everything, all the other papers are tied into it. And she has an interesting grading system where there's some forgiveness on the first paper, a little less percentage on the second paper, the third one, you gotta do it. And it really, it seems, so the students are revising and reworking their papers.
And I let them do that as well. And and it's actually like, Geraldine actually does have workshop time written into her.
Yeah.
So there is
Yeah.
in-class writing for each paper. It seemed like that was actually kind of a big deal of the course, is that they did have time in class to workshop and conference with the teacher as well as their classmates.
Yeah, it's usually with their classmates. And the problem with that, and you need to have some time to teach them how to critique each other's papers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And, that's just another thing you have to add to, it takes some extra time.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, I have to train the writing tutors I hire, and it's the same thing if you're gonna do it, otherwise it's a waste of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so if you go here, I'll log in. Oh, we're not on.
Is that other syllabus available online, or could we get a copy of it?
This one?
Yeah.
I
Even if I can't see it.
try to copy it for you, but it's just, and just to show you the variety, this is also a syllabus for Complex.
Oh, wow. Who's that?
He's an adjunct. And this is 105.
Something that Augusta did that I really liked is the liaison created a Google Home share,
Yeah,
and everybody's syllabuses were on there. They
yeah,
were from the university, so it allowed us to pull, if you would, from them. And it really helped because it kind of matched.
right.
When you have to blend,
And we can do that with our professors. I'm not sure why I lost my screen, but
Can I see the two-page syllabus, the short one, the adjunct professor?
yeah. And then you'll see it's radically different. But Pat's Blackboard is more of his syllabus. He's got it in there.
Okay.
I'll go get the APA handouts.
go into detail at all.
That was like the worst part of it, is that there really was a huge discrepancy between the syllabuses for like, there was 8
If
of
I could
them.
make it this vague, I would have written my own. I didn't know I could make it, I didn't know I
Right.
could, this tells
Right.
me nothing, really.
Mhm. And then as long as the learning, the student learning objectives are met, and then how you do that really is up to you, or at least it always was.
I mean, for me, I didn't even know where to begin writing a college syllabus. I was worried that I wouldn't do it right.
Mhm.
But this makes it look a lot easier than I thought.
Yes.
This is a guy writing a APA paper about APA papers, and he's having some fun with it. If you Google it, you might find a updated version. I literally give out 100 of these a semester to students. They're pretty popular. I should start selling.
I think so.
Didn't know if he was past the plate.
And I did email him back when I first started using this paper and asked him if it was okay. He said, yeah. He may be retired now because he's getting close. But every kind of reference in the world, because putting together a reference page is much trickier now with the websites and.
Oh, and the variations of the, I mean, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and how do you say? Actually, if you go to apastyle.org, there's a search bar and you can put in questions. We had to, how do you cite Twitter?
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah, you can.
Take for Comp 1, they're writing papers after watching a movie,
That's the adjunct.
and that's okay.
I would stay away from that one. Yeah.
I want to sign up for this class.
Now, when the English professors give a paper, do they require subheadings in your APA?
They only
do
in
they-
junior, senior year when they get to.
They do subheadings? Yeah.
Oh, indeed. But, that's for the longer papers. Same thing with if there's an abstract on there. You're
Yeah.
gonna have an abstract in
Yeah.
a 3-page paper.
Yeah. Because I don't do subheadings in my APA.
Well, that tells you how to do it.
Yeah. I'm so ingrained in MLA,
Yeah.
but I teach APA as well, but I have a hard time with subheadings.
But this works really well, this paper, just,
Yeah.
it's a good reference to
Yeah.
go through it. And, but my first year here, most of what I was doing was APA. Just formatting paper, showing them how to format a paper. And the technology has changed. Google Docs doesn't do it that well. That's why Microsoft Word, it works a lot better.
Google Docs does it better this year than it did last year.
Yeah,
They changed, so it's good.
And then using some citation machine or any of those citation generators.
Yeah.
The library here has RefWorks and use that. And it works
If they put
but
them in
it-
right.
if they
Yes.
plug it in right.
Right.
And sometimes it does make
Proofread.
mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah.
format.
Our librarian.
I don't like some of citation.
Yeah.
I like RefMe and BibMe, those are good.
Yeah, there's-
Some of citation.
And
They
that's,
always get it wrong.
Well,
Well,
our
it's because the kids
librarian-
always plug it in wrong.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
I'm like,
Our librarian promotes EasyBib. And
Yeah, I
I
like
find that
EasyBib too.
it's got problems every single time.
really?
Every
I
single
like
time.
I like EasyBib too, but again, I think it's that knowing what to plug in where if it
Right.
doesn't pop right
If it
up.
doesn't populate it itself, because it doesn't
Yeah.
always find that information.
Right,
And at least for this class, I had the writer's handbooks and used the Diana Hacker. If you don't have it, I like it. If you just Google Diana Hacker and look for the 5th edition, it's a website and it's got MLA, APA, Chicago style, and it walks you through all the different types of resources and how the in-text citation should look versus the bibliographic entry.
That's another site.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Her name is Diana Hacker.
Aaron, do you know how come it's not coming back? Go to login. And I'm already logged in, so usually they ask for your email and a password. Okay, and then under, first thing, if your students, should have access to the writing assistance request form. And click on that, and they fill out this form. And nothing. And usually this, you probably are not listed. I don't think they're all you, but these are all the professors, adjuncts, and you pick a professor, and then pick a date. There should be an online session because they're going to be mailing it in, and they're not an online student, they're a class student. And then say the name of the class, the assignment, and real important, put in the due date, and then you add the document to it, and it comes to us. Let's see if I can get
My site was loading slowly. Can you take me back through the links?
see, you're on the, oh no. You logged in?
How do we get logins?
Do you have a main.edu?
Not yet, not that I know of. I'm
Right.
brand new,
Okay.
so.
Do you?
I have my old one, which I have to go back and reactivate, but I've had one for,
Okay.
I've had it
And
for 7 years.
that's a good question for Scott. And ask him, did your students have this?
And if you really want to know the answer, ask Jennifer.
Okay.
Because he's gonna ask Jennifer anyways. I mean,
Okay.
We dealt with some high school students before they came over, but it was Fort Kent students and they came over, which
mhm.
a face-to-face tutorial is much more effective than this. And
And you really are going to, one of your first class,
Mhm.
make them log
Yeah.
into their portal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, it's just,
Go through it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
seriously,
Okay.
because they're gonna try it at 11 o'clock, the night before the assignment's due. And they're gonna blow up the email.
and over here,
If you have an active UMaine System Blackboard login for any course, it should also log you into the portal
Okay.
because the system uses a single sign-on.
this is not just a cameraman. This guy runs the This is the guru.
I usually don't get to do this. We have 5 or 6 of these to do at once, so I'm back in the
And
field.
here, under academic resources, once you're logged in there, turn it in. And you create a login. Oh, and we have to update our passwords every so often. No, I don't know. I rarely take this out of my office, and when I go bring it back to my office, I'm gonna have to reset a bunch of stuff. So I'm not sure why I can't log in. Okay, well, I'll go back. It was Okay, other things, Oh, your Blackboard is on your homepage? Right there. And Main Street. Do you guys access Main Street for grades and stuff? So. And those are my classes in the fall, which, you know, they haven't been loaded yet, so far. And you should have the same thing for yours. And if I search your, do a course search. Your class should come up if I search it. Oh, he doesn't have them loaded yet. Because the Royal U classes show up here too. And it says different campuses, and usually it doesn't have any name as staff. And that'll be in there. And,
What are the expectations for us to use that to submit grades, or? This is the first I'm hearing about it.
Okay.
and-
She always just asks us for,
Yeah.
we
I
usually
just-
just email them
Me
to
too.
Jennifer.
oh, and they plug them in?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, that's.
Oh,
yeah, I've
I
never.
haven't even gotten that.
And do they send you back their
I give them to my
application?
guidance,
And then,
No, they just,
the guidance office.
So if
I
you-
would actually like to have access so that, like, does that track anything? Or is it just the final grade?
Well, the nice thing it does for me, you plug in midterm grades,
Yeah.
so if a
Well, they
student,
plug them in, those in for us too, but it doesn't track any, like, assignments or anything like that.
that's
It's
Blackboard.
just mid,
Blackboard will do.
oh, Blackboard.
Blackboard will do that.
See, we
Do you do Blackboard?
haven't had no access.
Um,
Suppose I could get it.
yes, because it's just, once you're faculty, you get all of the bells and whistles.
but how do we create our own Blackboard site? Like, is that what you're
You
talking
don't,
about?
they'll give
Yeah.
you yours, it'll be associated with you, and you go on, and then you can set it up from there.
Ah.
It's basically like a Google Classroom or Edmodo and whatnot, and it's live, the kids can post back and forth too, just like any of those.
That would be, yeah, because they got me into the professor's class for Com 200, so I could see what he did, but I
Yeah.
wonder why they, because I was I wonder why they just didn't
You can
give
do
me
that.
my own login, or my own,
Your own class.
I mean, yeah, so I could have done that.
There's,
for-
yeah, they create a shell for your class, and that's girls right now. It's Lonnie. She does it, and I'm sure they can do that.
I can answer any questions you have about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And while you're on campus, if you're interested in this stuff, it is a good idea to go visit our DE and IT people who are right over in that office if you have any questions. The course shells do automatically get generated, as she says. That happens at the system level. If they know a course is going to happen, it gets generated. Setting people up with individual credentials is a little trickier because the system recognizes you as a student or a faculty or staff member. Those are the only two kind of categories. And just because of the hybrid nature of what you're doing, it might be possible that you're not recognized as a faculty member in the UMaine system yet, which makes it difficult for us to authenticate you for all of these different things. You can get added. In the future, I think this will all get easier as they redesign that Main Street thing that he was just showing you.
That's probably when they added me to his classroom.
They added you as a student, but they couldn't
Yes.
add you as a faculty member because
Right.
you're not on the books as a faculty member.
Right.
And there's questions whether we need to create a different category for high school teachers teaching the UMFK courses. Are you an adjunct or not? Or there's all this administrative, and it's not philosophical administrative stuff. It's IT people checking permissions boxes is what it is, and it wasn't organized like this when it was designed way back several years ago. We're also having problems because with students are taking courses on a lot of different campuses at the same time now, but a student is tied to one portal. So if you're a UMFK student taking 3 classes at Farmington, 1 at USM, and 1 at Fort Kent, you can't see the portals from those schools. You can only see the Fort Kent portal. So that's a problem. So this is just some background on that stuff. But there are people who can help you, and Mark can point you in the right direction, and so can Scott, and so can Jennifer. That's the reason why Jennifer has to enter everything now. Ideally, I'm sure they would love you to enter all of your own grades.
I'm sure they would, yeah.
Because they have more than 100 partners, and they have to do all the data entry themselves.
And Scott, the refrain I'm getting from Scott on this, every time I ask him, well, can they get this? He says, they get everything a normal instructor does.
And so you're saying that Blackboard isn't an option currently for us?
No, I believe it is. It is, but
okay.
it's not going to happen automatically like it would if you were an ingested HR department humane system
So
person.
a trip to IT before I drive 5
Yes,
hours back
yes.
to Jonesboro.
Yeah, and it's right,
Awesome.
where we came out this,
Yeah.
instead of turning.
Yeah. They can help you with the they can help you with the process. Yes, a special account needs to be made for you. It
Okay.
won't happen automatically.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they're very helpful.
Awesome.
Yes. And you should, in theory, be able to do that anywhere in the system, but I recommend UMFK to do it. They'll help you.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark.
No, that's not, don't apologize.
I'm kind of surprised that nobody has access to these things.
Well,
Like,
Scott said that they have everything.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
again, I was through Augustus, so mine came through them.
Okay.
So that was my experience. There is a little bit of a disconnect because
Yeah.
who are we? You know, we
Yeah.
don't get the orientation that your adjuncts and your incomings would have, which is another FYI why we should get together more than once
Yeah.
in the spring of the year to load everybody and run through.
And this, you guys are in crunch time right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Not a great
Today is the today, as a matter of fact, right now, I am missing the last class meeting of this class to be here before finals. So next week, I have 2 classes with them and then they're done, if they're done.
You hope
that's-
they're done.
Today's the last academic day for the seniors at
It is.
CHS.
Well, Tuesday, they're supposed to be there. So.
Yeah.
I hate we don't get that until, no one gets done until June 16th. Graduation is June 16th and all underclassmen will go till June 16th. Yep. I feel your pain.
Yeah, I don't mind it though, all things being equal, given today's the last day, they've got their last assignment due, today.
You get to miss the
I
chaos.
don't,
Yeah, right.
I don't have to sit there and listen to the crying and the,
Right,
you know.
pass out tissues.
Yep.
Growth mindset. Good job.
Don't check your email.
Yeah.
You turn that on, that baby's blowing up.
There, so, in Poland, I don't know how it works at your schools, but Poland, we're 1-to-1 with technology, have been for a long time, that's great. And so they all have iPads, which the iPad versus a laptop and the way that the applications work is always a fun issue to deal with, but they all have iPads and the seniors have to turn theirs in today unless they get an extension from the principal, which requires my saying that yes, they do need that. And my response is, have you checked their grades? Yes, they need that. So, yeah, so of the 17 students I started with for this class, there were at least a half a dozen who did not intentionally take it because it's a college course, but it was the senior English class that fit their schedule. So they're taking it for high school
High school
credit
for
and thought, well, I've got to be here anyway, I might as well sign up for the college credit portion of it. And, to varying degrees of success. We have this unwritten policy, unspoken policy, unless you get brought into an administrator's office to say, now you kind of need to accept the late work. That, yeah, they can pretty much turn it in whenever. And, we have a habits of work grade that does not count toward graduation.
Right.
But it shows whether they've done things on time and whether they've, met expectations in terms of their effort. But then it's all a matter of the standards Did they use evidence, effectively? Did they, show how a theme or a central idea is developed over time through the work? Did they write effectively? And when a kid turns in a research paper to me today that was due April 7th, I have to score it, and I get to say 1 for their how grade. But in terms of, did they do the research? Do they have enough sources? Did they use those sources effectively? Did they, create their works consulted page correctly? Did they, all of those kinds of things I have to score based on what I'm seeing. And
Does that habits of work grade go on the transcript? Like, does
that's a great
admissions-
question.
On the report card, I don't think it's on, for
No,
us, I don't.
On
think
the
it's on.
transcript it is.
I think
is
so.
on
I think
Ours,
so.
the one that we're using now,
I think so.
but there's no immediate.
But it's a weight.
questions.
But in terms of our scoring and our grade
It's not
grade
average,
book,
yeah.
it carries a weight of 0
Right.
in terms of what their grade in the class
But
ends up
it-
being.
You remember what I was talking about earlier, how they're gonna start looking at SATs
Yeah.
more because
Because of
that
this.
Right.
that habits of work grade
Will
could
be
become a part of the
incredibly
And that was the original
And that's
intent
going
when there
forward.
was a split
It's all, everything,
between.
yeah,
Everything is for you guys.
And so we don't have, so, another issue that I've been dealing with this year that I kind of heard Jocelyn talk about was, we've had kids leave the building to go take classes at CM or at Central Maine Community College or Bates, or they do the online, the distance learning classes. And when they come back to our school with a grade of B, our guidance department looks at that and has created or has used, I don't know where it came from, but they have a scaling
We do
to make
too.
that B translate
So like
into
a 3 or
a standard
right.
score,
Yeah,
right?
we do that too.
And so this actually has to work the opposite direction because I have to use standards-based grading, our system, to score assignments and translate that into a grade that Fort Kent will recognize. And when a student has taken a 3-credit class, that constitutes a credit at our school, which is why I can't offer 2 semesters of Comp 1 and Comp 2. I have to offer a full year Comp 1 and just try to go more in depth and do more with it. Because as soon as the kids earn their 3 college credits, which would be assigned at the end of the semester, they're done. They don't have to take a spring semester for our school, and yet they have to take a spring semester. So we can't call it the same thing. And at the same time, when they come back to us from CM or Bates or wherever else with that B, they've passed the class, and so for me, if they pass my class, then they have to get at least a C or a C- for Fort Kent. And so there's a lot to do with, can I fail a student? Am I allowed to do that? Do I?
If they get the C- or the D+, they
Yeah,
might not
students
know
don't
they failed.
Right. And so,
Yeah, twice.
on
Yeah, you're
our
right.
standards-based scoring, a 2.5 is the minimum passing score. And if they don't pass this class, they don't graduate from high school, much less get their college credits. And there's 19 levels of RTI that I have to jump through in order to document that they've been given all of these different supports and opportunities and contacts home and the 3 meetings and and more so to be able to say, I don't know what you want me to do here, they've been given all this stuff and they haven't done the work, they haven't met the expectations. So they don't get things done by next week and they don't start marching practice, and if they don't get it done in that week, then they don't march for graduation, and then it's a whole other 9 levels of paperwork just for us.
That's one thing, I've been in meetings here with professors, and I've told them the story about the 3 meetings and how difficult it is to fail a student. I said, so these students are coming to us with the idea that they're invincible.
Yeah, that they can just have another chance. They'll always get another chance.
But, you know, you still hear the side remarks from professors, what's going on in the schools,
Right.
you know, and it's just, you know, having been in both places, you guys are overwhelmed with hoops to go through. And I have so much more free time now than I did when I was and that's why, I told Scott, I said, I'm not gonna waste these guys' time. That's not what I wanna do. I wanna make sure, especially a week before finals, since, but even with that said, now that I'm out of the schools, if my son and daughter weren't in the schools, I would have a total disconnect. And it's not, it goes from that top list of priorities down, and the presenter was talking about the graying. The older people do not have the connection to the school, or not as immediate connection. And to me, the standards base, the worst thing about it is a person over 55, which I am, that doesn't get, when you say an A, hey. You say
Right.
a 3,
I don't know what that means,
Yes.
right.
right?
My
Is
daughter
a 3
brings home-
good? Is it not good?
Oh, I
mean,
love
is
There's a
it-
big
I love
difference in
standards.
where.
Right, but I think the window between, that 3 and that 4, and even if you use the half points and, the averaging for reporting the final grade in the class, there just seems to be a level of arbitrariness to it between, okay, so this is acceptable. You haven't gotten all of that, all of the minimum expectations, but you're on your way to meeting the expectations, so here's your 2.5. Like, from one
See, I find
assignment to another,
number grades are so much more arbitrary. Like, here's a 95. Well,
Like-
I got a 93. What's the difference?
Right.
A glass of wine. Like, really? What's the difference? You
Right.
know? But where a
20
3, you're
minutes.
proficient. You did what I asked you to do.
Here's what I've asked you to do,
Yeah,
you
you
did
did
it
it.
all.
If you're
Yeah.
using a rubric and you're creating a numeric grade, you can
Right.
still be this is why. It still breaks it down as to why you got the grade that you did.
But
But do we
like,
really wanna tell a
maybe a
kid it's
90 to
okay, you
100
didn't
might
learn
not.
everything that you were supposed to have learned? You got 70% of that, by the God, that other 30 must have been a waste of time. Who cares that it
or
was?
maybe it's beyond you at this point, you're not ready for it, or,
yeah, right.
And you're right, I mean, that difference, and so for me, the difference between a 3 and a 3.5 might be, an hour of, I'm just so tired now, I can't see anything the kids are doing at this point. And so, the rubrics can be as explicit as they want to be, and I find my problem with that is, okay, so the kid didn't do exactly what it says on the rubric, but they were doing these other really cool things, and how do I grade that because they didn't do what's on the rubric, and so I'm limited
Hopefully
to
it's
that.
captured
So,
somewhere else in the rubric. I mean, and if
but
it's
then the
not.
rubrics are 4 pages
Oh,
long.
no,
it
yeah, no,
seems,
you don't want that.
So there's a level of
Make your categories more general. So,
I
that
have a
it
friend
fits in
who
there.
teaches in the Taft School in Connecticut,
Yeah.
one of the most expensive schools in the country. And he's an English teacher, and over the English department door, it says rubric-free zone.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
love it.
absolutely. So
Well, standard base, you have to use rubrics. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
well,
Our kids.
And yet, besides it not being communicated clear to the outside the institution, I think it creates more of an emphasis on the grading. And, I took classes at Oxford, and when I left after my session was over, I got home, I was back in the classroom, and then I got my grades. And that was the only grade I ever got. I didn't get a grade the whole course.
Wow.
And it was, you learned a lot.
That's how we did it.
But
there's research that, shows, they have these, the teacher has these 2 groups of students and says, or even within a class, says, okay, do you want feedback or do you want a grade? You know, and lets them self-select, and so the kids that want the grade, you just give them the grade. And the kids that want the feedback, you don't give them a grade at all, you tell them, well, I really like what you're doing here, or have you thought about this differently, or, you know, why did you decide to, or, right, and those kinds of things. And ultimately, the kids who get the feedback
Learn more.
do learn more and develop the skills better.